Welcome back to the garage. So we're all done with making our parts for the Lisle drill grinder. This is the Lisle model 91000. You can find them on eBay used, and if you get lucky on Craigslist or someplace like that, but they are not made brand new anymore. You still can get some parts from Lisle, but I didn't have drawings for some of the parts that they don't sell. And I figured it'd be fun to make a video about making all the parts that I did, even though I think a couple of them you can still buy from Lisle. So anyway, we're all done with that. At this point, we have 2 complete Lisle drill grinders. This is the one that I got with my Monarch lathe. It was incomplete, quite a few missing pieces. This green one here is a little bit older. I bought that on Craigslist recently. It was complete other than the diamond dressing tool and pretty decent shape. It's not perfect, but it's not too bad either. So I use that as my template on all of these parts to get them pretty close to the same, if not completely exact on a couple of them. So now what we're gonna do is put it all back together. If you've got a Lisle and you're wondering how it all configures, then this will hopefully help you out. So I'll zoom you in closer here to the original one, and we'll use my new parts, assemble it, and it should be ready to roll. Got all our parts together here. So the first thing I think we're gonna do, move some of these out of the way, is basically assemble the carriage. So this can be adjusted front and back. I've never really seen any of the pictures of these online or in the manual or anything where it's not pretty much in the center. So I guess if you're doing a very big drill or something, you might have it up front. I don't know how it could be used if it was way back here, but anyway, not a big deal. So this is one of the parts that we made, just a simple mounting bracket. This shaft that we also made goes through here and into the base, so it sits about like that. This is just a clearance hole for the end of this guy. And when you insert this in, you've got to time it so that you put this in between, and this guy sits in between, sits in the middle of this piece. So first things first, we'll go ahead and put the mounting plate back here. Try and do this without blocking the camera completely. All right, that's on there nice and strong. So now we'll insert our newly made bar in through here. There's a couple of set screws on the bottom of this piece, and those go into those little dimples we made. This channel here lines up with a roll pin that is set in this handle. So when you're moving the handle, you're really just controlling that that pin, roll pin, and anyway, that's what's forcing itself against this piece to make everything move. So start with that guy there. This piece on that pin. There we go. Just need to get our little set screws here into those dimples so that they won't slide on the shaft. Looks like the next thing we're going to do is install the turret. So this is a part I made. This was definitely the most complicated of the replacement parts. So that just slides in like that. And then I'm going to make a replacement washer. This one's a tiny bit too small. But anyway, this is what holds this guy in from underneath. So the bottom of the turret is threaded for 5/8/16. Okay, now the orientation of this does matter. Let me move you down to see what I'm talking about there. So here's why we had to put that slot right there, that little groove rather, into this part, is to align the drill point angle. So right now it is set, I can't really see with the camera in the way, I guess it's right at about 120. And 118, there's a smaller line right next to it. It's a little bit hard to see. But anyway, these stickers are never in good shape whenever I've seen them on eBay or whatever. I think even Adam Booth's is looking pretty raggedy. So that was one of the things I called up Lisle and asked him about. And fortunately, they do still have inventory of these little stickers. They actually send you 2 for 50 cents. Obviously the shipping is a lot more than 50 cents, but I also bought a couple other things I'm gonna show you. So gonna get that, the old one marked and then put this guy on there. So we'll have a nice new, easy to read scale. So on the turret, what we've got to do is get our carriage in there. And so our carriage is basically what holds the drill in place right here. And then when you move it up and down, it grinds the correct angle on there. As you can see, there's a couple of features on top. One of those is for our little hex stud that we made. This one, again, I'm gonna make a washer, that is gonna fit that a lot nicer. Oops, you know what, I may have some polishing crud down in those threads. Yeah, let me clean that up. So there was polishing compound in there, but also I hadn't put anything through here since I slit that, so I had to just run a tap through real quick, clean up a burr. And so what this guy does is controls the tension on the drill carriage. So when this goes in here, you want it to be able to move, of course. That's how the drill gets sharpened. But if it's too loose, you can introduce some slop. And that's why we've got this slot on the part so that it can pinch down a little bit. So we've got some flex in the turret. Okay, so there's that. And then this other hole, which we're also going to need to clean. Okay, got that a little bit cleaned out. So what this guy is for, that hole, is for one of these little dudes. So it looks like a set screw, but it's actually got a spring inside, and then there's a piston that pushes down under, I don't know, 3 pounds to start moving the ball, and then 6 pounds total or something like that. Anyway, so that little piston pushes the pin into, or the spring rather, pushes the little piston into that groove. So that just gives it something, a positive stop, essentially. And that's all he does. So we take this guy and thread him in here. Okay, obviously adjust that at any time, but when we stick our, oops, so yeah, we need to adjust it right now. And when we put the carriage in there, it'll fight against that pressure. There we go, a little bit less than that. Okay. So yeah, that sets this at the correct stopping point. The other thing I thought about is if I'm going to go ahead and replace the sticker down here, I might as well replace this one. And it turns out they don't give you just the sticker. It's actually attached to this, I'm guessing that's just a zinc part. Maybe it's steel plated, or steel that's plated zinc, but anyway. So yeah, we've got a replacement one of those with a nice clean and clear scale on it instead of this one that's been all chewed up. So when you get in position and you're going to grind your drill, one thing you do need to keep is the lateral position here. And so this screw here, or this thread here, is supposed to have a thumb screw in it. So that was one of the parts we had to make. The knurling on it isn't very good, but I matched it to the not very good knurling that's on the piece I sampled from. So when you tighten that down, it gives you enough resistance that you can't just move the carriage or move the assembly. All right, the last part that we made is going to go right through the same bore. So we'll take the drill carriage out, and this guy here is my diamond dressing tool. So I found a reasonably cheap 1/2 carat diamond and made it part of this end of this little rod here. And one thing I didn't realize or didn't understand the purpose of was this line on the original piece. And it's kind of faint, it's been painted over. They painted these, and on the newer style with the round turret, they did not paint them. So I was like, well, is that just did it get scored somehow? Is that not really a feature of the machine? Until I set up with the old thing to dress this stone, and I realized the reason that that mark is there is to align your diamond. So this gets your diamond at that negative 10-degree angle to be in the right position to dress this diamond, or dress the grinding stone rather. So you just stick this guy in here, and I just butt it up against the turret, clamp this down nice and tight, and then run up, feed up with this knob here down at the bottom. So right now we are free floating. We've got about a, finger's thickness away from the stone. So run in with this guy until we start touching, and then just go back and forth until we have a nice square, true running grinding stone. Figure I'd get in trouble if I didn't show you guys grinding a drill. So this is one that I just pulled out of the drawer. Not exactly sure what's going on with this. It was in about a big old bunch of these, mostly taper shank drills at a garage sale for 25 bucks a while back. And this one has been, I don't know. Anyway, so 13/16, got a very chipped edge there, but otherwise isn't too terrible. So let's go ahead and grind it. So the first thing we're gonna do is adjust the drill size on this guy. It's kind of faint, but there's a 0 with a scribe line. So we gotta loosen this dude on the bottom. Okay, and we'll adjust this up to just a little bit under, I guess we want halfway between 3/4 and 1 inch. There we go. So on this thing, we've also got a stop on the bottom, and then this guy here also supports the drill. Now in the instructions, it asks you to use that to support the flutes of the drill. I don't know how critical that is. Again, I'm just getting to know how to use this machine, so still not sure what exactly is really important and what's not that important, but I'll follow what the book says. And the reason this stop is important is when you flip this guy around to grind the other flute, it needs to be the same distance from here to where you want it ground off. So if that's not set right, then you're going to be in trouble. All right, so what you're supposed to do is loosen both these guys. It's kind of tricky to film. Okay, and move this guy all the way out of the way. And what you're wanting to do is make this line parallel with this flute, the way it's presently ground or wherever it's supposed to be. So I don't know how easy that is to see on camera, but anyway, we're going for that little scribe line on this metal dude right there. We want that parallel to this line. And then that looks about right. So we will tighten down the clamp, and now the drill is held in there nice and tight. Okay, now to make sure we get the I guess it's the relief angle cut correctly. We want to move this dude up because it's a big drill. So basically we want to get this guy in position there, about 1/8 of an inch above the level of this guy, so that when we're grinding, we have enough clearance there so we grind this and don't grind into this piece, which is why these are kind of disposable. That seems to be very common, those guys getting ground into. So the purpose of this guy now is to give us a stop. So when we flip the drill around to grind the other flute, we've got this position to reference so that we are grinding equally on both sides. So that guy's now snugged in there. Okay, so the carriage is ready to go. So we insert it into the turret. I'll have to move this back away. There we go. And basically what we're going to do is find a good position where the whole drill is on the stone, obviously. Okay, about like that. And now we'll lock our lateral motion. And all we're going to do is basically swing this guy up and down until we get basically a fully cleaned up flute. And then what we do when we're grinding the drill is we move this lever up and down while feeding down here with the same guy that advances the turret into the grinding wheel. Just making contact there. Just double checking, so we're at a 118-degree drill point. Now that that guy is all cleaned up, we lock the position right here on the side of this guy, so we know exactly where we need to come back to. So now we back off with the in-feed. For video purposes, we'll go ahead and turn it off. So, now the surface finish on there isn't as nice as I would like it, and I think it's because of the grinding stone. That's a 40 grit, so it's kind of hard, even though this was perfectly dressed off before we started. It doesn't leave a great finish, and I think it's just because of the coarseness of that stone. On the other one that I used before I started tearing into it, just to see how everything worked, it left a much better finish, and that's a 60 grit wheel. So I think that's the only reason it leaves kind of a bumpy finish. And then on this side, we really should have started here where it's got the chip in it, but this is just for demonstration purposes. So like I said before, we need to get it back to the same spot, same distance from the drill stop, and then use our little metal tab here to, whoops, out of focus, our little metal tab to orient the drill. So back to clamping it and feed back in. And this is what I was talking about when the motor is running and you're contacting the grinding stone as you in-feed with your left hand while you're kind of swinging the drill up and down. So when I was feeding in, because the stop was set on this guy, once I got to where that feed knob wouldn't turn anymore, I knew I had reached the same amount of grinding as the first side. And despite that big chip in there, it did clean up. So not the prettiest grind, but definitely accurate, and the chip is completely squared away. So we've now got a nice sharp 13/16 drill. The only problem with it is the shank is terrible. Camera does not like this focusing way out in front of the rest of the depth, or the rest of the image. But anyway, you get the idea. Well, that's going to do it for our Lisle drill grinder refurb, refresh, whatever you want to call it. Got all our parts made. They all seem to work just fine. Successfully ground a drill, and it looks like it's supposed to. So I think all things considered, we did a good job on making our parts. This was the only one I had real concerns about as far as getting it right. Obviously the dimensions and everything are actually important on that one. So I'm happy with our success there. And it's pretty scruffy looking. So I don't think I'll be able to resist tearing it down and cleaning all the blue paint off, priming it, painting it, making it look nice. So we will get some drills ground now that we've got a machine to do it properly. And just like it just always happens that you've got a dull drill, I've got drawers full of drills, and it seems like every time I go for one random size, there's 3 in there and they're all 3 dull. So even smaller sizes, being able to just turn this thing on and grind a drill back to really sharp and perfect is worth the sort of inconvenience of, well, there's not a lot of money value in that, but not having downtime and having to wait for a shipment or leaving the shop and driving down to a supply store to try and get a sharp drill when we can just make it sharp right here. So thanks for watching, appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. The reason all YouTubers ask you to do that is because that is what helps the channel grow. And when you watch the ads, that is what helps me make a couple of bucks off of my efforts here. What you see on screen is usually about 10% of what filming time takes, or actually of what is filmed. So cut out about 90% of that, and then there are hours involved with editing one 10-minute video. So if you could watch the ads and kick a couple of pennies my way, I would appreciate it. And I will keep bringing you content I think is good. So thanks a lot. We'll see you soon.